Hi guys, I'm back again with some more stories for you today. Let's go to the first one, about OP's half-sister, who demands OP's mother pays for her fertility treatment so she can have a baby. But she's OP's father's affair child. Listen to the story to find out OP's reaction, and of course to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. This involves me, 33 female, and my half-sister, 32 female. We share a father with different mothers. Our dad was married to my mom and expecting me when he got her mom pregnant. Mom found out and kicked him to the curb, and things were always incredibly awkward. My mom chose to stay single. Dad and my half-sister's mom got married. For a long time, my half-sister and I fought like cats and dogs. She was always up my butt about how her mom was so awesome, and I should choose her over my mom. That my mom was the reason we weren't a real family. I resented her for saying that when her mom was the other woman between my parents. I also resented her because my dad expected me to be way more mature than her, despite our barely 1-year age gap. So we weren't great to each other. Over time, the resentment for me shifted from what our dad and her mom did, and more about how she would act like my mom had no right to be in my life. She never really grew out of seeing my mom as someone who shouldn't have been there. We both married young and both struggled to have children. Last year, my mom gave me some money to go after more intensive fertility treatments, and it worked, and I'm expecting a child with my husband. My half-sister has still been unsuccessful, and we got into a fight recently where she said my mom should be giving her money too, since we're sisters, and she's never tried to welcome her into the family. I was enraged hearing that. For years, she made it seem like my mom should just go away and leave me to be raised by her mom, and then she says mom should have given her money. I told her she was an entitled brat if she thought that, because my mom owed her nothing after the way she has spoken about her for most of her life. I told her to go ask her mommy for money, since she's so great, and leave mine alone. She started to argue, and I told her her mom should do it, since she's just the best ever, and if she wants a grandchild, this is her chance. She got so upset. Our dad couldn't believe I was so unsupportive of her. Am I the a-hole? Well, of course OP is not in the wrong here. OP's sister's view is so utterly bizarre that it is incomprehensible. Why would OP's mother give money to someone who is an unrelated random person? No biological, legal, ethical, or moral reason for helping. In many ways, she's less than someone who is a friend or even a neighbor who one might give money to out of genuine feelings or kindness, and not because there was any obligation. There's less than a relationship. There is a negative relationship in which the sister is OP's mother's husband's affair child, who also tried to create drama between OP and her mother. So yeah, I think she's a little bit delusional if she thinks OP's mother's gonna help her with IVF. And now let's see if the community agrees with me. GMU Virus Tuss says, not the a-hole. Why in the world would someone pay for their ex's child with someone else to get IVF? Desolation 29 says, not the a-hole. What the duck is wrong with your dad and your half-sister? I mean, I already know because it's obvious, but it still begs the question to be asked. This home-wrecking, family-breaking, sorry excuse of a father, husband, has the unmitigated gall to accuse you of being unsupportive of your half-sister's blatant entitlement to your mother, his ex's money. And your half-sister has the actual gall to say the most cruel, hateful things about your mother to your face for years, and then gets offended that the woman she's hated all this time refuses to give her, the one who basically hates her even existing, money for IVF? What the hell kind of upside-down, inside-out warped reality do your half-sister and dad think this is anyway? Particular 46591 says, here's a secret I've learned here. The father always, and I mean always, sides with the children of the woman he is screwing at the time. So that's it. It's that simple. The good news is, your 50% sister has mothballs where she needs brains. Just ignore her raving. Eventually she'll get distracted by a bouncing ball or something shiny on the sidewalk. You're not the a-hole in that pseudo-family. When my daughter, Kaya, was 12, we learned that I wasn't her birth father. My ex-wife had cheated on me with another man back then, and then re-continued her affair with him. We only learned about it because she was pregnant with that same man's child. My wife and her AP knew at the time of Kaya's birth that I wasn't her father, but decided that the best solution was for the AP to leave the country and for her to pretend that she was happy with me. It was so completely cruel. I was completely blindsided because I'd never thought my ex-wife would ever do this to me. She claimed she had loved us both before, But then she started loving him more. We got divorced. The divorce was hard on Kaya. She was unable to connect with her bio dad, and she's never gotten along with her mom. When she was 15, she contacted me crying and begged me to let her come home. She felt neglected by her mom and her birth father, who doted on her baby brother, and she was forced to give up a lot of after-school activities because her birth father lost his job and she had to babysit, cut down expenses from activities. I let her come home and re-enrolled her back to the school she was going to. Her parents didn't really care because my ex-wife was pregnant with her third. Kaya and her parents didn't really keep in touch after a year or two of moving out. I had no say in this. Kaya is now 21 and a very smart, outstanding member of society. She graduated from MIT this spring and already has a six-figure job. She's getting married in 2 months to one of her classmates. She's glad that the pandemic gave her an excuse for a small wedding, and we're just having the ceremony at home. Her mother called me the other day, first time in years. She was upset and demanded why we didn't tell her about the wedding beforehand, so she could have prepared. Kaya didn't invite her parents, but her fiancé made a Facebook post, and I guess that's how she found out. I bluntly told her that she's not invited, and she broke down. I also told her that I'll be walking Kaya down the aisle. She started yelling at me that I have no right over Kaya, and that she's only living with me because of the familiarity of home, and that I was just a piggy bank for college. Now, her mother's sending us gifts with cheesy quotes like, "Home is where the heart is," and "A father is a girl's greatest gift," and more. Her father sent her a long letter explaining how leaving her when she was a baby is the hardest thing he had to do. My ex-mother-in-law called and said that I shouldn't hold grudges over Kaya's father and that I'm depriving him of the blessings of fatherhood because I'm petty. Of course, OP is not in the wrong here. They didn't want to make an effort with Kaya when she was younger and having a hard time, and now that she's made something of herself, they want to swoop in and play happy family. OP is not depriving anyone of anything. She's an adult, and she's already decided that she wants her real dad to walk her down the aisle. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Sucks to be that guy says, not the a-hole. It's Kaya's wedding, and she can have it in whatever fashion she wants. You aren't responsible for her relationship with her mother and birth father. I'm a strong believer that blood doesn't necessarily make someone family. The best families often are not blood related. Nut Michelle says, not the a-hole. Kaya has made her choice, and it sounds like she made a damned good one. Good on you for supporting her when she needed you. Undercover Introvert says, not the a-hole, and why didn't your ex contact Kaya directly? Why talk to you about the wedding invitations? Oh, that's right, because she has zero relationship with her daughter. Did her bio dad by any chance mention how hard it was for him to let her go at 15 after neglecting her for his new kid? How involved is your ex-mother-in-law in Kaya's life? I mean, sincerely, by seeing how everyone is reaching out to you than Kaya, we all know that this isn't more than ego and a power play. I have a 17-year-old daughter, Eva, and a 16-year-old stepdaughter, Lucy. They really don't like each other, but as long as they are civil, that is all right. Eva is really exceptionally beautiful. Ever since she was little, I've been approached by talent scouts and modeling agencies, but I always said it had to be her choice. She used to be a competitive dancer, and when she was 8, she was approached to model for a kids' athletic wear brand. She wanted to do it, and she's been modeling ever since. She also makes good money on social media. I don't touch any of this money. It's all hers. Well, Lucy wanted to do what Eva was doing because it looked fun. So my wife took her to a modeling agency, but nothing came of it. My wife even invested in one of those scams at the mall where you have to pay them. I tried to tell her, but she really wanted this for Lucy. Well, Lucy's a pretty girl, but she doesn't have that it factor Eva does. Lucy took this out on Eva, but we put a stop to it. Lucy also tries to become an influencer. She has a small social media following and is obsessed with getting discovered. Eva quit dance 2 years ago because she couldn't keep up with dance and modeling. She now plays school sports because they are less time-consuming. Lucy never had any interest in sports, and now she claims she's into fitness. She got on junior varsity, and Eva is on varsity, and Lucy will not leave her alone. She's always critiquing her and acting like she is an expert on tennis. I recently bought Eva some new and somewhat expensive equipment, and my wife started harassing me about why I didn't buy Lucy any. This morning they got into a fight over a scrunchie, and Lucy claimed she needed it for Instagram. I yelled at both of them to stop fighting over the damn scrunchie, and then I told Lucy she needs to focus on something besides social media. She said Eva is always on Instagram, And I pointed out Eva makes money off of it. So really the time she spends on her phone is equivalent to her having a part-time job. Lucy locked herself in her room, and my wife thinks I'm an a-hole. I'm gonna say that OP is in the wrong here. Sibling rivalry happens all the time. Step-siblings can have an especially hard time getting along. It's clear OP loves his daughter and thinks she's talented. OP's description of the situation makes it sound like OP is obviously favoring her. She's OP's biological daughter, so I can understand that. But my guess is OP's stepdaughter senses how much more OP loves her. She wants to be good at something too. In my opinion, OP could invest some time and energy into helping her find things that she excels at. But it definitely sounds like OP isn't putting that effort in. OP should try to encourage her, instead of just telling her not to bother because OP's daughter is better, which is pretty much how OP came off. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Miss Senpai says, "You're the a-hole. Just because one daughter makes some form of money via Instagram doesn't mean that she gets the rights to only be the one using it. You seem to have an extreme bias for Eva, and you should seriously consider thinking about that. They should be equal in your eyes as a parent, but they're clearly not." Bad B. Crow says, "You're the a-hole. Is it any wonder Lucy is insecure? She's watching her sister get all this attention and praise from her parents and others, watching her make money, and all this on top of the usual insecurities of being a teenage girl. Yelling at her isn't the way to deal with this. What sorts of things is Lucy actually into and good at? I mean, there has to be something beyond what Eva is into. Have you or your wife done anything to encourage her to express her own talents? So maybe she isn't a model, but she can and should find her own way to shine. What's more, as her parents, you and your wife should give just as much attention and praise to Lucy's passions as Eva's modeling or whatever, even if it isn't making her any money. Money isn't the point. Self-worth is the point." Black Blood Games says, "So I just read a lot of comments that said you're the a-hole, but honestly no, you're not the a-hole. Yeah, she's jealous and she is allowed to be. Still, it just doesn't make sense to spend a lot of money on expensive equipment for something she doesn't really enjoy and just does to annoy your sister. I agree, you should try to find something she's good at and enjoys together with her, and of course give support. But you definitely shouldn't encourage this behavior she is doing at the moment. It will only hurt her even more if she fails." I, 26 female, married my husband, 43 male, a year ago. His ex-wife is in and out of the hospital for COPD, which was triggered by her persistent anorexia. His youngest daughter is 13 and lives with us when her mom is in the hospital, and sometimes even when she's not. My husband is paying an exorbitant amount to send her to private school. But even at 13, she's a train wreck and already drinking and doing D, while her older sister, 18, and their mother refuse to acknowledge my presence, except to accuse me of spending more in a month than they all did in a year. My other stepdaughter treats me as her emotional tampon and older sister. As such, she told me her secret that she keeps alcohol bottles and shoeboxes in her room and asked me not to tell. Her friend also gets her D, and she keeps it in her tampon box. She's boarding at school for the summer because select kids can, but her school has a no-tolerance policy for alcohol or D. I end up calling the school administrators and telling them I was concerned by what my stepdaughter confessed. They raided her room and found the stuff, and she was expelled. My husband was furious that his daughter was doing D and ended up sending her back to her mother. Meanwhile, her mother is calling me a homewrecker and telling her husband that I was the toxic one in the situation. At first, I felt righteous because I was telling the school stuff that I felt my stepdaughter was unfairly heaping on me. But after seeing how angry my husband got, to the point where I was there when he left a message on both their phones saying, "Love your ex-husband and ex-father," I'm getting second thoughts. However, I do feel like my stepdaughter was taking an education she didn't appreciate or deserve. And since she doesn't seem to care about education, she should just go to public school. Am I the a-hole? Background Yam 1728 says, "You're the a-hole. Tell her father, not the school. Why are you so petty? You're acting like a mean high school girl instead of a mother figure to her. You sound jealous that she's getting a better shot at a superior education, while you just got stuck in public school." Deleted User says, "You're the a-hole. Please explain how any of what you just did helped your stepdaughter stop drinking and using substances. Making her to go to public school and getting her expelled was like slapping a band-aid on a bullet hole. Nothing will get solved here if you and him, as the parents in the situation, don't dig down to the root issue of why she's doing what she's doing and if she needs treatment. Deleted user says, "You're the a-hole. You did this because you felt she didn't deserve her education, not because you felt like she needed help, which she 100% did. You and your husband are both the a-holes here. Instead of showing any kind of love or compassion, you just kick her to the curb. She is 13 years old." My 51 male, wife 56 female, have been married for 5 years, and we each have 2 children from our previous marriages. My children are in their upper 20s, and hers are well into their 30s. None of them have ever lived with us, and they were all living on their own. After getting married, my wife and I purchased a farm that we currently live on. The problem is that my stepson has laid claim to everything we own by calling it ours. We were sitting at the table and we were looking at a magazine and saw something he liked in it. He looked at me and said, "We need this on our farm." He was referring to everything this way: our farm, our cows, our tractor, our truck, our pond, our workshop. You get the idea. One day he told me he needed the truck to haul something. He was referring to my pickup. In my mind, I was thinking, couldn't you ask me to borrow my truck like most people would, instead of telling me you're taking it? The final straw was when he went into my workshop and rearranged stuff and made adjustments to some equipment I have without me knowing about it. I sent him a text and blew up at him, telling him that he was entitled and had no respect for the stuff that his mom worked hard to have. I told him that because his mom and I own something, it doesn't mean that he also owns it. I also told him to never make changes to my equipment without talking to me about it first. He told me to duck off and that he never really liked me anyway. He was just nice to me because of his mom. I could understand if he was 10 years old and lived with us. However, he's in his mid-30s and has never lived with us or on our farm. Is this normal behavior? My wife thinks I'm the a-hole for blowing up at him. Am I? Capricorn 40 says, "My wife thinks I'm the a-hole for blowing up at him. Am I?" Why doesn't that response from your wife surprise me? Not only do you have a stepson problem, you have a wife problem as well. It is her job to support you when her adult children overstep your boundaries. Because if some Joe off the street did this to you, you would be justified in giving him the riot act. But because it's her son, you're supposed to grin and bear it. Not the a-hole. Jammy 913 says, "Not the a-hole. I think the bigger question is, why does your wife think it's okay for her son to come mess with your equipment or take your truck without asking and receiving your consent first? This may be more than a stepson problem, but a wife problem. Couples counseling might be in order." Cult Queen says, "Not the a-hole. Your stepson is that way 'cause his mother allowed him."